Alright everybody, well, I know some of you have been requesting this tutorial for a little while, and for those of you who are here for the first time or just joining in, we are making a scrap pack today. So I have a couple of them pre-cut already. I have enough here for like 5 or 6 of them. And the wonderful thing that I've discovered with these is they're small, they're easy to store away, and they make your scraps look really pretty while you're storing them. And it's a good way to declutter. Maybe you want to send some scraps to a friend, anything along those lines. So if you are excited, then let's jump right in. So I went to Hobby Lobby a while back and I seen these elastics. And I grabbed them because I wanted to use them for flowish journals, or I was actually going to design them as scrapbook journals or scrap journals. The scrap packs are really, really small, so you can divvy it up into smaller sections. But I was also going to do like a journal size scrap holder. So maybe later on I will get into more of doing the actual journal style scrap holder. I know recently Nick the Booksmith came out with a lap book. It won't be as extravagant as that, but it will be something similar to that. I mean, I guess technically it would be a lap book and you could add to it to that extent to have 4 different layers going on, but this is a little bit more simple than that. So you're going to need some elastic. It doesn't matter if it's colored. You can even use elastic like this if you want, this size, you know, the standard elastic you can get for pants and stuff, if that's all you have. I also collected some of these pretty laces to use. We may not use them today. We may get into using them in the second half of the video. So I'm going to go over some tools for the basics. Like if you guys don't have any of the fancier stuff, I'm going to go over some basic tools you'll need. So, bone folder. You'll need a bone folder. If you don't have one, you can use an old credit card or an old, like one of those cards that you get in the mail that are the hard plastic where they're advertising credit cards. I think you can even buy like this one that is not a credit card, but it's like one for crafting purposes. So you'll definitely need that. I'm also going to try out, if you have the more fancier, I'm going to try my Fish Arts roller. I'm not too happy with the handle. It feels too bulky for me. I think I want something smaller or different style than this. Excuse me, I got the sniffles. But we are going to use this to see how it comes out. Yeah, allergies are really bad right now. Another tool we are going to need for the more advanced is a crocodile for punching your holes and adding on your rivets. If you don't have this, don't fret. You can use an awl if you have one. This one is a little bit more got going on. It's a more expensive one with the removable needle. The needle has a hole in it. This is a leather awl. You can use a standard awl as well, just one that has the little spike on it and the handle. It's not removable. That is also fine for punching your hole. For attaching the rivets, some of your rivet kits come with this piece right here. It's a rivet thingy-mabob for smashing them. And you use a hammer, or depending on how soft the rivets are, you can use your hands. So you do not have to have this piece here. If you cannot afford it, then you can use one of these. If you don't even have any rivets or this tool, you can just punch the hole and put on the elastic and reinforce it with like tape or something. Obviously it's not going to be as strong, so you can't pull as tight on your elastic or put as much into it. But if it's what you have, it will work. So I like chomping corners now. Now that I've discovered it, I'm in love with it. Fish Arts has this corner chomper that's more affordable than the other one. which I finally invested in. It's the crocodile one. Really, really nice. I like it. At first, I was a little biased. I still like this one better because it gets more of a curve going on. But this one I've actually come to really, really like, especially the bigger size on the cropping. You can crop through chipboard with this thing, but I'm not gonna lie, I still revert back to this little guy when I'm just doing standard working. She gets caught sometimes and jams a little bit, but she still holds true. I'm terrible because I'll like hit her on the desk a couple of times and she'll pop loose. Eventually she won't one day and I'll have to go buy another one, or I'll accidentally drop her and she'll fall apart. So, for cutting straight lines, for scoring, if you do not have a scoreboard, there's a wonderful little trick that I have learned for scoring. And I will use that trick throughout the process or the tutorial to kind of help you guys that don't have a scoreboard, and you'll need a ruler and a pair of scissors. So pretty easy with that. You can use a standard school ruler. I like this one because it bends, so if I'm wearing an apron or something, I can just tuck it in there and I'm good to go. Or you use your more of a crafter's ruler or a sewing ruler. This one you can use with a rotary board. And I love this thing, no joke. I use it all the time. This poor thing has been used and abused. Also, the kids are playing again. I'm sure you can hear them. Razor knife. You can always use a razor knife in these type of crafts. You can get a cheap box cutter style one. I have this fancy Sheffield one because I use it out working in the yard. I use it when I go down to my parents' house. They have a nursery, so when we get big, huge tree orders in, I need it for box cutting and getting into their shipments in order to help restock the nursery. So, the two bigger tools I'm going to use today that some of you guys may not have, if those of you have them, is this board here for setting your grooves and all that into your paper or your cardstock. And this wonderful thing, I am not kidding you, I have to go buy another one because I've probably about killed this one, is this wonderful cutting board. I've used the crap out of it. I've definitely got my money's worth out of it. It's really nice because it has this light in it here. You move this back and this comes up and this comes up, and there's a light that kind of shows you where the line is. Hey, calm down. Come here. I'm trying to film, kids. I'm trying to film. Y'all are being noisy. See, they're kicking each other's patooties. Come here. Come here. You gotta make an appearance. Come here. Oh. You're pouncy here. Hey, calm down. Come here. Okay. There. You gotta make an appearance. No, I'm camera shy. No, you're not, silly. No, you're not. You have your own Instagram. Little Lexi Ann, if you guys want to find her. And Fluffy. I haven't really made him an Instagram. I got a bunch of old photos of him. He needs a bath and a grooming, but he makes appearances on Miss Lexi's Instagram. I wish I would have thought about it when he was a pup. Would have had a lot of fun with that one. So, I'm sorry if that took too long to explain all that we got going on with our tools for some of you guys. Let's jump right in here. So you need scrapbook paper. You need a manila envelope. If you do not have manila envelopes, cardstock will also work. You do not have to go by my exact size specifications. You can make it whatever size you choose. So, that being said, mine are the size of the vanilla envelope itself. So, and I, not to advertise or anything, but I ordered some Vistaprint cards to test them and hopefully get some business cards for myself, which I finally did. And I decided to save this little thing because I thought it would fit perfect inside of the little scrap packs for stashing some goodies. So, excuse me, little things like that are wonderful to save. Oh, and for glue, you need Fabri-Tac. You don't have to use Fabri-Tac for this project. I am addicted to this stuff. That's almost all I use. I've been using tacky glue for some projects, although I'm a bit partial to it because you got to sit and play with the paper when it starts drying because it starts warping, especially on this. So to smooth it out, you got to sit and play with it or sit it under something heavy so it dries flat. With the Fabri-Tac, you don't have that issue. So obviously, if you don't have a cutting board, you're going to have to get your scissors out and chop these pieces of paper. I, however, have a cutting board for this very reason, because I am constantly chomping stuff every day. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and line this up. And if you've cut on this thing a lot like I have, there's already a groove cut into there, so I just line it up with that. You can also set this down and a light comes on to help you see better. But for me, it's a really bright day outside, so I don't need that. And just chomp away. I've used this on a lot of cardboard too, so I think the blade, if not the blade, then the strip itself needs replaced. So the strip right here pops out and you can replace it. And I think it's about time for me to do that. So on this piece, we're just going to line it up here, which I've figured out it comes directly out to 8.5 inches. And it just chops right at the corner here where this comes down. That should be in camera view. If not, I'm sorry. So where this little spot is right here, we're going to line it up at the bottom. And from here to here comes out to be exactly 8.5 inches. So we're going to line that up, line the whole entire line along here so it comes out straight. And for some reason this board is a little crooked when it cuts. So on my next one, I got to hopefully maybe upgrade and get a little bit better one that won't be a tad bit crooked because it drives me insane. So if you really like keeping your scraps, oh, and don't pick it up until you know that this is cut if you're using one of these, especially if your blade's been through God knows what with me. So that way you don't end up with crooked lines or anything. So perfectly straight. It is 8.5 inches by 11 3/4. So that is how big our booklet is going to be. Now we're going to set our cutter aside and we're going to get out our scoreboard. But before we get out our scoreboard, let me show you the cheater pumpkin eater way. So this is how I do it even with the scoreboard. I'll fold it in half and pinch right where it's going to be in the middle. So I kind of have a general idea. And then you can lay your ruler down or your green one. It doesn't really matter. Line up the line on your kitty one. You'll just use one of these lines, obviously, to make it even. You can even, line it up like this across the top. Make sure it's flat. And that way you'll get a nice straight line. The lovely thing about these rotary rulers is that they have that straight line there. And we'll get our scissors. And we'll press down like this. And see, look at that. You have a lovely score mark there. And you didn't even need a scoreboard. Now, obviously, if you have a scoreboard, all the scores are already there, so you can just lay it down and keep scoring. Whereas with this ruler, you have to measure. And with this one, it's a little bit harder because you're going to have to take your ruler, probably get a pen and mark out your inches, like put a little dot along each one. And then you'll have to take your ruler and draw your line, or you don't have to draw your lines, but score your lines as you're measuring. I'll usually see how all these notches line up with the line underneath, especially if your ruler's clear. Then you can just drop it down to maybe the second notch or the littler, the tiniest one. Maybe make it a little easier on you. If it's not see-through, then you got to go through and individually mark for all of your score points. With this one, it's a little bit easier because you can see, so you could go, okay, well, I want it to be a 1/4 inch. So you line up these dots here, you take your scissor, and you score. So now that you guys have a cheater way to doing score marks without a scoreboard, let's get out our scoreboard. I know I'm terrible. So these usually fit right before the little 6-inch mark. The notch just before is where we'll put our first score. And I score like every little centimeter for these. And I do 5 score marks for this specific size. It just works out perfect. Now, obviously, with your scoreboard, you're not going to have all this tearing going on like this one has from the scissors. But even with the scissors, and you can reinforce it with masking tape if you choose, or anything along those lines. So now you take and you fold all of your lines in place here. And you can even use your bone folder to do this. You don't have to do it by hand. I just find it a bit easier to do it by hand. So there you go. Now you have a little booklet going on. Alrighty. And I got a couple going on here. So now you can leave your corner straight, or you can do like I do and get out the chomper. If you don't have a chomper, you can just, get something that's round. See, it got stuck. So now you guys know we're just going to, I don't feel like banging the desk while I'm doing a video with you guys. So I'm going to grab one of these that are finished. Oh God, allergies. If that didn't cover it, I'm gonna have to cut that. I'm terrible, I'm sorry. Okay, so now we got this going on here. Let's go ahead and mark our punch holes. Let's put our scoreboard. We won't need this again. Unless, you're making multiples. So, if you're using your ruler, you're going to use your 5th or your center line, which will be like your 3rd one. And you'll use your ruler. And I usually go down 1/4 of an inch for these types of deals. And, of course, the one thing that you need for journal making, and I didn't grab it. So you're just going to grab a pen, especially if you don't have a crocodile. You're going to measure down 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 inch, and you're going to put a little dot for your hole. If you don't have a crocodile, this is where you're going to get out your awl, or even a needle will work if you don't have an awl, and you're going to stab your hole at that point. So we are going to go ahead and use, wherever I put it, the crocodile. So I want, let's see, what size rivet? We got the tiny rivet. So we're going to use this little centimeter one. And I think it's already set. Oh, no. We're going to do it to 1/2 inch. I think that's 1/2 inch. I want to be sure. Yes, 1/2 inch. So we're going to go in and put it right in the center there. And punch our little hole. Our little hole. Boop. There we go. Look at those little cuties. Okay, so if you're fortunate enough to have one of these, if not, you're going to have to get this baby out and hammer and start hammering your way away. And you would put it on this the same way you would put it on your little notebook here. But I am going to wait on these. I don't know why I'm digging through these. Had a little bit of a blonde moment. So, now we're down to the fun part. And I have all of these going on here. And I decided while I was chomping these, so I got a couple of these going on. Got lots of organizing to do. Headed up to IKEA on Saturday to do some shopping. Okay, let's hope our chomper don't get stuck. So we're going to pre-chomp our corners. And if you didn't, well, you can glue it on too and chomp them later. Especially with this one, it's so sensitive. I just like to chomp them even before I do the work. I can't decide whether the bird is going to be on the front or the back. I think I want the bird to be on the front. Okay, so I have mastered the art of gluing. At least I personally think that I have. I mean, if I haven't, you know, please let me know. I've glued a lot, and I'm not kidding when I say a lot. So I usually will start from one point, go all the way around the outside, so I know that the edges will be good and sealed. And then after that, I just make some circles and put adequate pressure on the bottle just to get enough out to cover the entire surface. If you don't like touching the glue after you're done, you can usually set your paper down and smooth it out. And it should stick adequately. I, however, like smoothing my glue out with my finger. It just, in my opinion, it comes out nicer. Forgive me if my voice is all over the place. I'm still adapting to this, excuse me, this microphone thing. There we are. That, and it dries a little bit faster, gets tacky as soon as you lay down your photo, it sticks really well. You don't get much warping going on or any of that nonsense. Okay, smooth it out. And then you don't have any bubbles coming out usually on the edges either. So this is where you're going to either use your roller or you use your bone folder or your little credit card thing. Okay, where did I put them? Here. And you can just, go over it, smooth it out, make sure there's no air bubbles, make it look all pretty. You can see, look at that. Oh, yes. You got a little bit of overhang on the edge here. Don't worry about that. We can always trim it. Or leave it, your choice. So pretty. Okay, we're going to do the back now, too. This gluing technique, I pretty much use it for everything. I use it for covering my journals. For even when I'm putting, after I get done stringing my journals, the text blocks, I'll go over the text blocks, especially if I want a little pocket inside where the spine is. I'll go in and add a piece of fabric over my stitching, and then I'll glue it, and I'll make sure it makes it into all the crevices, and I'll get myself a piece of muslin and just, mold it in there. Not only does it give it a nice clean cut, but when you have that space in between your text block and your spine, it keeps anything from snagging on it if you decide you want to have a little hidey hole there. Really, really nice. So we're going to go ahead and smooth this out. And I did decide to put the bird on the front. I don't know if you guys can really tell looking at it from this angle. Okay. So I've been working on a lot of projects lately, and while I work on my projects, I sit and watch Hulu, and see, it's not quite so stuck that you can't shift it a little bit, so it makes it nice. Anyway, I finally got into starting that series, Sirens. And I'm a fan. Not at first, I almost turned it off. I wasn't too keen on it, but when it finally got going, I thought it was pretty interesting. So I'm actually almost caught up. I have one more episode to watch before I'm fully caught up. I'm terrible. I'll sit and binge watch at first. Okay. And you can just sit and go like this. And I love this Fabri-Tac because generally if your fabric or your paper or whatever's thick enough, especially your paper, it'll just come right off like that. I love it. Now, on the thinner paper, sometimes you're going to encounter issues and you'll rub it right off. Be careful with that. It's not pretty. You'll have to cover it up. I've done it once or twice. Especially with the tacky glue. With the Fabri-Tac, you're a little bit safer. See, look at that. Cleaned up real nice. Even though we don't really have to have this cleaned up. But I like cleaning it up. That way you don't have any... Oops! I just dropped the lid to my glue. Give me a second. And I just dropped paper. I gotta rescue it. Oh, man, I'm just a disheveled mess right now. Okay. Oh my. I'm going to have to hit pause, ladies and gentlemen, because I forgot the spine fabric. Oh. And I feel silly because I just realized I did not tell you the measurements for the front paper, but that's okay because I had the front papers pre-cut, and I intentionally didn't pre-cut the inside paper, so I'd be able to give you a measurement just in case this happened. Okay, so before we install our inside papers, though, I want to get our fabric. So I have this strip of muslin that I coffee stained, and that's gonna be so pretty. So you can cut it with your scissors. You can cut it with your rotary knife if you have one or know how to use one. If you don't have this rotary table like I got, a rotary blade is wonderful for these things. And you can even get one for paper and one for fabric. Because that's all this really is a rotary board instead of just a rotary knife. Okay, so our thing here, our lovely thing is 8.5 if we remember. So I usually do about 1/4 of an inch overhang so I can glue it down and not have too much, not only too much fabric waste, but in the same sense, not have it look overly bulky. So we're going to do a 9-inch one here. Oh, and see, that's what happens when you don't pick it up, or you pick it up before you know you've cut all the way through. I've cut through a lot of paper with this, so it can be temperamental on fabric sometimes. I gotta buy one for just fabric. Okay, so this little spine here that we got going on is not even an inch. It's like 3/4 of an inch, a little bit over. So I'm going to do the spine, I think, at 1 inch. Does that sound good to you? Maybe a notch over 1 inch. Oh, let's see. Yeah, we'll do 1.25 inches for the spine fabric. Just hold it in place on your line. Make sure everything's lined up. There we are. And we have a little spine fabric going on here. And of course you can use your ruler and your razor knife or your rotary blade if you have one to cut that, if you don't want to use your scissors. There we are. So, just going to line this in some glue around the circle. We obviously don't want it on the table. And if there's a little bit of fabric hanging over that hasn't been hit by the glue, we can go back in with the glue and cover it. Oh, Air Force Base is out and about late today. They got the air show coming up this weekend. And it's funny because if we were home where I live, I'd probably get like front row seats to it. But I'm kind of glad I'm going to be out of town because that's going to be very noisy. They got like 3 massive events going on this weekend. I'm like, yes, we're going to be out of town for the day. And then we'll be back. So that would be a little bit nice. But my roof is also getting fixed this weekend. So I am very ecstatic about that. It's not leaking inside of the house. I mean, it's leaking out on the porch, but the point is it's still leaking. And see, we got this overhang here that isn't stuck and we can just fold it back. And personally, I would put the glue straight onto the fabric. That way there's no risk of going over your designated area. And then you got to figure out a way to cover it up. If you would rather put it on the paper, that's your choice. This is just how I prefer to do it, so I know that I won't overshoot. There we go. And then just rub your fingers together like this, and it'll come right off and throw it right in the garbage bin. Alrighty. Right on the fabric. So if you guys didn't know or didn't watch my video on Wednesday, today it's Thursday for me, but it'll be Friday when this video comes out. If you didn't watch my last Happy Mail video, which was on Wednesday, one of my lovely ladies that follow me on my channel sent me a book. And I'm pretty excited to get the chance to read it. If you guys are all readers and you would love to check out her book, head on over to my last video and check it out. I'm sure she would love that. If not, that's okay too. I mean, I just thought, you know, maybe you might like to read a new book or something. I myself, I'm not too big of a reader. I'm more of a writer, but when I run into other writers, I get pretty excited, especially into other writers that have published, because, you know, it kind of gives me a little bit of a, hey, I can actually get my work out there. But in the same aspect, you know, in this day and age, everyone is able to get a hold of that self-publishing. I've been writing ever since I was like 6 years old. I mean, my mom found work from when I was writing when I was 6. And I drew like little figures and like really intricate, neat things, even at like 6 and 7. And some just really interesting stuff. It was just really cool. Some of the stuff that my mom had pulled out that I had done one day. And I was like, wow. I mean, wow, when I was 6 years old, 7 years old, and I was creative. Thanks, Mom. You're awesome for encouraging me to be that creative. So it really encouraged me to get back into my writing again at that point in time. And a lot of people have supported me in doing it, although I'm not going to lie, I have been procrastinating a little bit. I'm terrible. But to hear other people and their success stories of being able to publish, I don't want to, in one aspect, I want to self-publish because I want to keep a hold of, retain the rights to my work. But in another aspect, you know, I wouldn't mind publishing something and being able to honestly say that I'm a published author. That would just be that someone actually liked my work enough to want to publish it without me having to become a published author. I think that's like almost every true writer's dream who has ever wanted to really, really seriously delve into the world of writing. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. Throw your opinions in the comment. I would love to hear them. But I've always had the dream of publishing something from a company that actually... excuse me. I'm sorry. This carbonated drink has really got me going this morning. Okay, before we move forward, I kind of want to punch these holes again so I kind of have a guide mark. Might be a good idea for you that way too, so you don't have a terrible mess going on where your holes actually are. Because for me, this line is my guide mark, and here pretty soon I'm not going to be able to see this line. There we go. That way it just kind of keeps everything unison. There we are. Oh yes, good, good. I hope it's not getting too late here. Pretty soon I'm going to have to skedaddle for work. Okay. Now, I have this pretty paper. I think I want to put this one on the front cover on the inside, and this one on the inlet back cover. I really like them. I think they're pretty. So the size that we're going to need, which is funny because it's the same size that I use for my miniatures. So I don't really have to overthink it when I'm measuring. I just revert back to making miniatures. The only difference is my miniatures, it's sideways, and the measuring for this way is standing up. So the size that we need, I'm going to set these right here for now, is 5.5 by 8.5 for the cover. So we do 5.5. And I want this one in the back, so this will be scrapped for something else. By 8.5. And because mine ends up a little crooked sometimes, I'm going to measure it along, or line it up along this bottom one to make sure it's even. And this top one here. And I just cut it the wrong size. My bad! Let's try this again. Measure twice, cut once. Isn't that the famous saying? Okay, 5.5 inches wide. It's alright, we got scraps going on here to put in our scrap keeper. By 8.5. 8.5. Oh, I'm terrible. I'm sure I'm not the only one though, am I right, ladies? Okay. See? Perfect size for our lovely here. And then we're going to do the same thing for... Oh, almost lost it there. For this piece. Alright, well, I want to be able to make sure I can read that. Old French. Woohoo! We're going to definitely get that one in there. For those of you that don't know, I'm a France enthusiast. I really want to go see Paris, France. Completely in love with the place. I want to go to the French Quarter in New Orleans. Okay, 5.5 by 8.5. There we are. Perfect. The one thing I love about having the fabric here too is not only does it look really nice, but it reinforces it, especially if you're going to be running your string through here and you don't have rivets. This is really going to make sure that it doesn't tear up, let alone tear up as fast. Alrighty. So we're going to go ahead and chomp these. Oop. Being a little silly right now. Let's empty that out. And it's stuck. There we go. See what I mean? She's finicky. And I cut that the wrong way. Terrible. I'm full of today. I'm just on the fritz, aren't I? Just didn't even close the bottom of my thing. Oh, I'm just terrible. Terrible, I tell you. Alright. Let's try this again. Five and a half. Eight and a half. And I'll just use that other one for another one of these. Alrighty. And this one, so we're gonna chomp here and here. Chompy chomp. And chompy chomp. Ah, that reminds me of Land Before Time. Any of you guys have read to Land Before Time when you were a kid? My grandmother bought that for us when we were little, and I remember the little dinosaur, the T-Rex Chompy, when they got a hold of the egg and it ended up hatching. Moment! You know, as a kid. Ooh, you know what? No, I feel like, you ever get a car and it's got the white on top or the gray on top? No, gray, tan on top and black on bottom. When I was driving the rent-a-car, it was like that. I hate that. But for this purpose, I think it looks good. Because the back kind of being darker sets it off and makes you look more at the front. Purdy's going on here. Of course, I guess you could say the same thing in the vehicle. You know, it feels like the lighter portion of the car isn't there, and the darker portion is kind of like the pavement. Kind of silly to thought, right? I think of the randomest things when I'm out driving around. Give me a second. I'm going to go grab some things. Okay, so it's funny because I walked back there and grabbed this one and it was the perfect one to grab, Green Mansions. And on top of that, it's like all solid, like unlike this one where there's indentations and stuff like that. So it's perfect for what I want. So I want to measure this. So I'm pretty, kind of got a general idea. It's going to be about a half to a fourth of an inch. Yeah, it's about a half an inch here going on. So I think I want to shoot 2 notches over a half an inch. I'm terrible. I don't know what that is. Just telling you guys. So we're going to do right here. Just randomly cut a straight line. And we're going to do, so we got an inch going on here. I think I'm going to measure this way, make it a little easier. So we got a half an inch. and then 2 notches. Here we are. And I got a feeling that this quite isn't long enough, but that is okay. We can add to it. We're going to cross our fingers and hope it's long enough. Cross our toes. Cross our fingers and our toes. But it's not quite long enough. And I guess I anticipated that, but that's okay. There we are. Okay, so we got 7.5 inches, so we need to make up a 1/2 inch on each side, or a full inch on one side. You know what? Instead of doing that, I'm going to use washi. And I haven't seen my washi in a while, so I guess I'm going to have to go find it. Or, nah. Okay, let's see here. So it doesn't quite cover it. So we're just going to use a strip of our fabric. And I know I cut. Y'all are like, it's right there in front of you. Well, it kind of is. Here we go. So I know that one's too big. So we're going to just go ahead. So I know this is 9 inches. We're going to cut it down to 1.5 inches. You can cut it the exact same. Oh, see, look how dull that's getting. And I got another blade too, but I use this mainly for paper. These scissors are for paper too, so that's why it's taking me a little bit longer than normal to cut through the fabric. Terrible. I know I should have grabbed fabric scissors for this tutorial. Okay, so I know that this fabric is 9 inches, so I just want to cut off a 1/2 inch. Perfect. That way I know it's the exact height going on here. Perfect. There we are. So now we're going to go to Glue Town. We're going to glue this baby till there's no glue left. No, not really. Not really. Don't use all your glue. Please don't use all your glue. Okay. Now I'm just going to go from end to end on the fabric that's already there, so I kind of have a rough guide. Because I think 1.5 is about the size of the one on the front too. I don't remember. Don't quote me. For those of you taking notes, sorry about the sniffles. It was an 1/8 of an inch off. I know, I'm sorry, my bad. I'm terrible. Okay. Alrighty. There we are. And for this one, I'm not going to worry about these edges, because we're going to be gluing fabric on top of it. No biggie. Alright. Now we're going to, this is more for looks, so we're going to glue it on after we glue on these pieces. So let's just go ahead and go in and add our glue. Just on the tip of the fabric. And the same as we did on the front, just swirl it around lightly, nothing too crazy. Just light little noodles. Little noodles. The kids are somewhere. So I picked up all the blankets out of the dog basket here in the craft room. Well, there's a poofy one in the kitchen, and the kitchen is just right outside the craft room. So I'm going to take a stab and say that's where they're at. If they're not, then they're in the bedroom. Okay, so, oops. I'm going to God, everything is sticking to everything. Smooth this out real quick. Get a good smoothing going on. Especially near those edges, guys. That's my favorite place to smooth, if nowhere else, because it just gets a good seal going on. And you can make sure that the glue makes it all the way to the edge. Okay. Oh, we got a ball going on there. We don't want that going on. Okay, and line up this edge and everything else will work itself out. There we are. Just roll our glue off our fingers into the garbage can. And get our rollie, or if you don't have a rollie, get your credit card or your bone folder and smooth it out really good. Oh, we got some glue coming out there. Just wipe it away real fast before it has a chance to really set into anything. Okay. Oh, I don't know what that is. Oh, I think it came out of my crocodile. Okay, I should really be sitting down, huh? I have this habit of standing sometimes when I'm crafting. Sometimes I have a habit of sitting. It just depends on my mood. Then I realize, oh, my back. I should sit down. I've been bending over for too long. There we are. Just glue down the corners, that way you don't have any issues if they aren't sticking. The rest of it, don't worry, it'll be held in place by the paper. Alright, there we are. So what are you guys working on? Are you working on your lovely scrap packs with me? Are you working on something else? If you are working on scrap packs, I would love to see them. Definitely tag me in your Instagram photos at lilmissdasie, or on Facebook. You can tag me at lilmissdasie. If not, that's okay too. Or you can just message them to me. I would love to see them. See how they come out. What ideas you guys come up with. That would be awesome. Here we are. Woohoo! Got some gluing skill going on here. Move it out to the edges, of course. Oh, yep, it's sticking real good. Would you look at that? Okay. There we are. Line that up really good. And if you don't have any of that stuff, you know, you can use your hands too and smooth it out really even. Sometimes I'll get lazy and I'll just use my nails like this. I'm terrible, but then I do it too much and I realize it starts hurting the beds of my nails. Okay. And we now have a scrap pack cover. Look at that. Okay. Excuse me, I hope you guys didn't hear that. I was buried drinking glue. Okay, we got our little piece going on here. I've noticed in some of my... Oh, wow, perfect fit. I've noticed that in some of my older vintage books that I come across, they have these words inside the spine when I break them down. And so that kind of gave me this idea. I really liked it. It looked like they were upcycling books to either rescue the spines of the books or build the spines of some of the books. How many of you guys have come across that when you're crafting or deconstructing your old books. Lexi. Sorry. She's in the washroom, which means her little gears in her head are spinning. What are you doing? Silly. Who do you think you are? She's doing that little crooked head thing. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. You're going to go in there and do bad puppy things. Yeah, bad puppy things. You see how I smooth the glue out like that? I kind of do that on most everything. That way I make sure I get a nice good seal going on. All right, now that fabric has covered here and here. And to boot, we got, oh, there goes the Air Force Base. We got a little bit of reinforcement going on. Nice strong spine here. So for those of you who don't have any rivets, I hope you guys can hear me over the planes. I'm just gonna go in and do a little bit of gluing while we're waiting for them to pass. Sorry about that. There we go. I hate it. Always when I sit down to do videos, they always do flight simulations. They were talking in the news about getting an even noisier airplane. Obviously they haven't done it yet. A lot of people were complaining about it, so I don't know if they actually went through with it. There we are, guys. Look at that prettiness. So let's punch our last hole for this session. Now we can line it up here. There we go. See, look at that, right on the dot. And then here too. Just gonna get it up in there, punch that hole, line it up evenly. Well, would you look at that, guys? We now have a cover. And you can even use this as a journal if you wanted. You don't even have to use it as a scrap pack. There's multiple uses for this. Super easy. Your cover is ready to go. It's got its holes punched. Now all we have to do is install our rivets. I have some colorful ones here. I also have the standard gold and some vintagey brushed aluminum. But you know, I haven't used these colors yet, and I'm really liking this green. I feel like it would really pop against the brown distressed. There they go again. The distressed spine, and really pull out the greens on the cover. And then I'm going to use these gold ones to back them. I really like that. Yeah. There we go. Sorry for that again, guys. They're just on a roll today. Okay, so I don't really get to use this much, so testing it out every time is really, really fun. Let's see here. Oops. Okay, so it looks like about that one is going to be the right size. So we're just going to rotate it to that one. All right. Now, we're going to set our green one here. Perfect. And then we are going to put you in here. And line you up. I don't do this very often, so I'm not as skilled at putting it on rivets. So we're going to, I kind of wish I had brought my pliers in here. I feel like that would have made it easier. Use the scissors to guide it into place. I have like these medical pliers that I use for stuff like this. Also, like your needle nose pliers, if you have jewelry pliers, would work really good. Or just, you know, go jack a pair of your husband's needle nose pliers. Or your boyfriend, or, you know, your other half. Okay. It looks like it's all lined up. Oh, why are you sticking? What's wrong with you? Okay. That's odd. Or it just... Maybe I'm just odd. Oh no, it didn't stay. Well, that part stayed, so... I guess we didn't need this part. Alrighty. So, in which case, we're just gonna go like these. Just slap it in there because the fabric holds it in place really well. Oh, or not. I feel like that's not opening as wide as it should be. I don't know. I feel... Yeah, it's stuck, guys. That's weird. What's going on with this thing? I might have to take it... Well, that's odd. Never had that happen before. Ah, I see. This lock button, I guess, I accidentally pushed it. And how weird. Huh. Locks it closed. Interesting. Learn something new every day. Okay. Alright. Now we're gonna go ahead and do that. Alrighty. I like these green ones. That was a good choice. So I guess I didn't need these. I'll probably regret it later though, because they look like they're not quite hanging on, but it didn't get them, so I don't know. Okay, well, whichever, you know. Alrighty, so we have this beautiful lace here, and here come the Air Force Base again. They're going bonkers today, so we're gonna trim this. Not even really trimming it that well, are we? I should have grabbed my fabric scissors. Okay, I want to put a little bit of tacky glue on here to keep it from fraying. There we go. Okay, now it'll hold its prettiness and not fray. You can also do that with fray check if you are a sewer. Okay. There we are. And we're just gonna put a little bit of glue here, not too much. Rub it out, make it smooth. It'll make it look better, trust me. There we are. And then we're going to do the same thing for the bottom. Kind of fray check it. Make sure it's not going to fray everywhere. Then we'll measure. So the start of that circle. Okay. There we are. Little bit of glue. Smooth her out and lay down your little bumper right there. Get your glue off your fingers. Alrighty. It's time to pick our string. That's way too bright. I like that one. I I know there isn't really much blue going on in here, but I feel like this one really matches. Okay. Ooh, and it has a pre-cut thing right there too. Okay. Now you can put on a couple of these, like 2 or 3, or you can just put on one. For this one, I'm going to do 2, and I want to show you guys why. So we're just going to make it maybe about an inch bigger on each side, and you can eye it. You don't have to measure it. A little bit bigger. Not much, just a little. Just a little. Okay. So I'm going with 2 here. Now we're going to tie our knot at the bottom of our string. And it's just going to hang out like this, you know, nothing fancy. And then I'll put this on here. We're good with that for now. Got some crazy glue going on here. Okay, so now we're going to take from here and pull up to the end and get it as straight as we can. Pinch it like this so we can feed it, hopefully, through our hole and pull it through. If that doesn't work, you can use like the back side of your needle to push it through, or push it through. There we are. We got that little guy hanging there. I actually kind of love how that stands out like this. This is a little bit longer than I anticipated, but that is perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, pinch it. Feed it through your hole. Right there. Alrighty. Now we're going to pull it a little tight. Wrap it around. Not too tight, just a little bit. Nothing crazy. You don't want to lose your elasticity and not be able to slide things in there. So we're going to leave that loose and make sure that this is about where we want it, which in my opinion, that's the perfect amount. So now we're just going to pull this tight. And now you have this little loop here going on. If you want to use it to hang them, you can. If you want to use it to hang yourself some charms on it, now you have a spot to hang some charms or a tassel. Any of that lovelies, you can use it to like clip it onto your bag on the go, anything like that. So your little goodness is perfect and ready to go. Oh, we got a little bit of stuff coming up here, which is okay. You can fix that easy. Oh, let's pull off this excess glue. And you don't even have to glue this portion in the center. It's just for looks, in my opinion, just to be pretty. Here you are. I smooth it out with the tip of my nail. And just press it on in there. See what I mean by getting lazy? So, alrighty. Much better. She is done. I mean, you can add your little charms if you want. You can add like pockets and things like that. But I think for today it's finished. I will be adding pockets to it on our next tutorial video. If you would love to join in, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe and get notifications for when that video and other wonderful goodies are coming out. If not, I'm okay with that too. You do not have to stick around. Although it would be greatly appreciated with the support. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please check the description box for any other information that you wish to find. And I hope that this was a great experience for you and that you learned a lot building a scrap pack with me. And if you have any hints or suggestions on what you would like in the next video or the coming up video, please let me know. I have some ideas on how I'm going to finish out this scrap pack, but any input on something you would like out of it is wonderful, and I can explain or add to it, because I will probably have 5 in this lineup coming out. So I can try that process on one of the 5 and see how it comes out for you guys. Now I think I'm going to sign off. The Air Force Base seems to progressively be getting worse. So it is definitely a good time to sign off, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!